The dark mysteries behind the missing couple. It was a cold and dark night. The snow was falling heavily, covering the ground with a thick layer of white. A young man, Leo, was hiking in the mountains. He had decided to go on a solo adventure and had packed his backpack with some essentials. He had a tent, sleeping bag, flashlight, knife, and some food and water. He had also brought his camera, phone, and laptop. He wanted to take some pictures, make some videos, and write some blogs. He wanted to share his experience with his friends and followers online. He had been hiking for about 3 hours until he had reached a clearing. He had seen a small cabin with a sign that said, "Welcome to Winter Lodge." He had thought it might be a good place to spend the night. He hoped to find some shelter, some warmth, and some company. He had walked to the cabin and had knocked on the door, heard a voice coming from inside. It was a woman's voice. It sounded friendly. "Hello, who's there?" He had answered, and his voice was cheerful.
"Hi, I'm Leo. I'm a hiker, and I'm looking for a place to stay. Can I come in?"
He had heard the door unlock and open. He had seen the woman and smiled. She was young, beautiful, and blonde. She wore a sweater, jeans, and boots. She had a name tag that said Lily. She smiled back and looked at him with interest. She had spoken to him and her voice was sweet.
"Hi, Leo. I'm Lily. I'm the caretaker of this cabin. You're welcome to come in. It's cold and dark outside and you must be tired and hungry. Come on, I'll show you around."
She had invited him in, and he had followed her. He had entered the cabin and felt a sense of warmth and comfort. He had seen a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. Also, there could have been seen a fireplace, a sofa, and a coffee table with a TV. He had seen a bookshelf, desk, and a laptop. He had seen some pictures on the wall of a happy couple, a man, a woman, and a dog. They looked normal and friendly, but they also looked familiar. He realized he had seen them before. They were the same couple that had gone missing a year ago on the same mountains. They'd been hikers, bloggers, and vloggers, just like him. They'd been famous online and had millions of fans and followers. They'd been Leo's idols, and he had followed their every post and video. They'd been Leo's inspiration, and he had wanted to be like them. They'd been Jack and Jill, and they'd never been found. He had wondered what had happened to them and why they were in the same cabin. He had wondered who Lily was and what she was doing here. He had wondered if she knew anything about them and if she was hiding something. He decided to ask her. He had walked to the living room where she had been waiting for him. He had seen her sitting on the sofa holding a cup of tea. She had offered him one and he had accepted. He had sat next to her and had looked at her with curiosity. He had spoken to her and his voice was casual. "So Lily, how long have you been working here?" She had answered and her voice was calm. "I've been working here for about a year. I'm the caretaker of this cabin and I take care of the guests and the maintenance. It's a nice and quiet job and I enjoy it." He nodded and his voice was curious. "I see. And how many guests do you usually have?" She had answered and her voice was coy. "Not many. Here's a bit remote and secluded, and not many people know about this place. But I do get some visitors from time to time, mostly hikers like you. They come here to rest, relax, and enjoy the nature. They're always nice and friendly, and I always make them feel welcome." He nodded and his voice was suspicious. "I see. And do you know anything about the previous owners of this cabin, the ones in the pictures?" She had answered and her voice was cold. "Yes, I do. They were Jack and Jill. They were hikers, bloggers, and vloggers, just like you. They were famous online and had millions of fans and followers. They were also my friends and my guests. They came here a year ago to spend a week in the mountains. They wanted to take some pictures, make some videos, and write some blogs. They wanted to share their experience with their friends and followers online.
They never left. He gasped, and his voice was shocked. What do you mean? They never left? What happened to them? She had answered, and her voice was sinister. They died. They died here, in this cabin. They died in my hand. They died because they were stupid, arrogant, and annoying. They died because they deserved it. They died because I wanted them to die. He had been stunned, terrified, and angry. He had not believed her, but he had seen the evidence. He had seen the blood, the bodies, and the weapon. He had seen the video, the blog, and the confession. He had seen the trap, the camera, and the timer. He had realized that she was telling the truth, and she was insane. He had tried to reason with her, to stop her, to fight her, but it had been useless. She had laughed at him, mocked him, taunted him. She had said that she planned everything, that she had no remorse, no regrets, no mercy, that she had a motive, a method, and a madness, that she had a killer instinct, and that she wanted to see him die. She had been ruthless, relentless, and deadly. She had not given him a chance, a choice, or a way out. She had not let him escape, call for help, or survive. She had forced him to play her game, to watch her video, to read her blog, or to die. She had forced him to solve her mystery, to unravel her secrets, to face her horror. She had forced him to enter the cabin and to become part of her murder.
A Night of Dare or Die. How a haunted house challenge became a misplacing nightmare. It was a cold and dark night. The snow was falling heavily, covering the ground with a thick layer of it. A group of friends, Mike, Sarah, Ben, and Amy, were staying at a cabin in the woods. They had rented it for a weekend getaway and had planned to have some fun and relaxation. They had arrived at the cabin earlier that day and had unpacked their bags and settled in. They had explored the cabin and had found it cozy and comfortable. It had a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. It also had a fireplace, a TV, a DVD player, and a collection of movies. They decided to watch a horror movie that night to get into the mood. They'd chosen a movie called The Haunting of Hill House, based on a classic novel by Shirley Jackson. They heard it was one of the scariest movies ever made, and they wanted to test their nerves. They'd popped some popcorn and had gathered around the TV. They turned off the lights and had started the movie. They'd watched the movie for about an hour and had been thoroughly terrified. The movie was about a group of people who had been invited to stay in a haunted house and had experienced all kinds of paranormal phenomena. The movie had shown creepy scenes of doors slamming, voices whispering, blood dripping, and ghosts appearing. The movie had also shown the psychological effects of the haunting, as the characters had become paranoid, hysterical, and violent. The friends had screamed, jumped, and clutched each other throughout the movie. They'd also laughed, joked, and teased each other to lighten the mood. They enjoyed the movie and felt a rush of adrenaline. They'd paused the movie and had decided to take a break. They'd gone to the kitchen and had poured themselves some drinks. They chatted about the movie and shared their opinions and reactions. They had agreed that the movie was very scary and had praised the acting, the directing, and the special effects. They also wondered if the movie was based on a true story and if the house really existed. They decided to Google the movie name and had found some interesting facts. They had learned that the movie was indeed based on a true story, and the house was a real place. They'd learned that the house was built in the late 1800s by a wealthy and eccentric man named Hugh Crane. They'd learned that Crane had a twisted and tragic history, and that he had died under mysterious circumstances. They learned that the house had been inherited by his descendants, but that none of them had lived there for long. They'd learned that the house had a reputation for being haunted, and that many people had reported seeing and hearing strange things there. They'd learned that the house was now abandoned and that it was located in a remote and isolated area. They'd been fascinated by the information and felt a surge of curiosity. They wondered what it would be like to visit the house and to see it for themselves. They'd wondered if they would experience the same things as the characters in the movie and if they would survive. They looked at the map and had realized something shocking. The house was not far from where they were. The house was only a few miles away from their cabin in the same woods. They'd felt a chill run down their spine as they realized the coincidence. They looked at each other and had seen a mix of fear and excitement in their eyes. They'd felt a temptation, a challenge, a dare. They decided to do something crazy and go to the house and see it for themselves. They'd grabbed their coats, flashlights, and their keys, then left a note on the table saying they would be back soon. They'd gotten into their car and had driven away. They'd followed the directions on the map and had found the road that led to the house. They turned onto the road and had driven into the darkness. They'd driven for about half an hour until they'd reached the end of the road. They'd seen a gate with a sign that said no trespassing. They'd ignored the sign and had opened the gate. They'd driven through the gate and had entered the property. They'd seen the house looming in the distance. It was a huge and imposing structure with a Gothic and gloomy style. It had a pointed roof, a tower, and a balcony. It had many windows, but they were all dark and empty. It had a front door, but it was closed and locked. It looked like a haunted house, straight out of a horror movie. They'd parked their car and had gotten out. They walked towards the house and had felt a sense of awe and dread. They'd reached the front door and had tried to open it. It was locked. They'd looked for another way to get in and had found a window that was slightly open. They'd pushed the window open and had climbed inside. They found themselves in a dark and dusty foyer. They'd seen a staircase leading to the second floor, a door leading to the basement, a hallway leading to the living room. They'd seen a portrait hanging on the wall. It was a portrait of Hugh Crane, the original owner of the house. Looked stern and sinister, and he seemed to be staring at them. They'd felt a shiver as they'd looked at the portrait. They'd wondered what secrets and horrors the house held and what fate awaited them. They decided to split up to explore the house. They had agreed to meet back at the foyer in an hour to leave together. They'd gone their separate ways and had disappeared in the darkness. They'd never seen each other again, like they were misplaced in a mysterious terror zone. The Mansion of Murder. It was a stormy night. The rain was pouring down and the thunder was roaring. A group of 6 friends, Alex, Beth, Carl, Dana, Eric, and Fiona, were driving to a birthday party. They'd been invited by their old friend Greg, who had inherited a mansion from his uncle. He had said he wanted to celebrate his birthday and his new fortune with him. They'd arrived at the mansion and had been greeted by Greg. He had welcomed them warmly and had shown them around. The mansion was huge and impressive, but also old and creepy. It had many rooms, corridors, and stairs, and it was filled with antique furniture, paintings, and statues. It also had a library, a ballroom, a dining room, and a cellar. Greg had said he had not explored the whole mansion yet, and that there might be some secrets and surprises hidden inside. They'd followed Greg to the living room, where he had prepared some drinks and snacks. He had told them to make themselves comfortable and to enjoy the party. He had also said that he had a special surprise for them and that he would reveal it later. They chatted with Greg and had caught up with each other. They'd been friends since college, but they drifted apart over the years. They had different jobs, lives, and interests, and they'd not seen each other for a long time. They felt a mix of nostalgia and awkwardness as they tried to reconnect. They'd also noticed that Greg had changed. He had become more arrogant, boastful, and secretive. He had bragged about his wealth, his mansion, and his plans. He had also hinted that he had a dark and mysterious past, and that he had some enemies and rivals. He said that he had a lot of secrets, that he would share them with them soon. They'd wonder what Greg was hiding and what his surprise was. They felt a sense of curiosity, but also a sense of unease. They'd sensed that something was wrong, that something bad was gonna happen. They were right. The party had turned into a nightmare when Greg had announced his surprise. He had said he had a game for them, a game of murder. He had hidden a weapon somewhere in the mansion, and that one of them was the killer. He had also hidden some clues and puzzles, and that the rest of them were the detectives. The game would last until dawn, and that the winner would get a prize. He had said the game was simple: find the weapon, find the killer, or die. They thought he was joking, but he had proved them wrong. He had shown them a video of him killing his uncle. He had said he had murdered him to get his inheritance, and that he had framed someone else for the crime. He had enjoyed killing him. He wanted to kill again. He had chosen one of them to be his accomplice. He had given them the weapon and the instructions. He had also rigged the mansion with traps and cameras who would watch them from a secret room. He had locked the doors and windows, and they could not escape. He had cut the phone lines and the internet, and they could not call for help. He had started the game, and they had to play along. They had been shocked, terrified, and angry. They didn't believe him, but they had seen the evidence, the blood, the body, and the weapon. They had seen the video, the clues, and the puzzles. They had seen the traps, the cameras, and the timer. They had realized he was telling the truth and that he was insane. They had tried to reason with him, to stop him, to fight him, but it had been useless. He had laughed at them, mocked them, taunted them. He said that he had planned everything. He had the advantage. He had no remorse, no regrets, no mercy. He had a motive, a method, and a madness. He had said he had a killer instinct and that he wanted to see them die. They had been helpless, hopeless, and desperate. They hadn't known what to do, where to go, or who to trust. They hadn't known who the killer was or who the next victim would be. They hadn't known if they would survive or if they would die. They had been forced to play the game, to find the weapon, to find the killer, or to die. They had been forced to solve the mystery, to unravel the secrets, to face the horror. They had been forced to enter the haunted mansion and to become a part of the murder.